Hey, welcome to Witching Hour Tarot. It's been ages since I have recorded. Trying to get back online. I know I was consistent for some time, maybe uploading once a week. I think it's been at least 3 or 4 weeks, so my apologies. I hope you haven't missed me too much, my 2 subscribers, and maybe all my secret admirers. Woo! It's getting hot in here just thinking about it. But anyways, there's been a lot of what I like to call residual energy around in my personal life. Just old stories, old narratives, old paradigms and ways of thinking, primitive ways of thinking, just kind of passing through. And I've been very distracted with it lately because I feel it all around me. Spiritual warfare is always all around us, and it's just I like to let the energy pass through, and I think it's passed at this point. It's on the tail end of it, but there is certainly a larger sort of hump to get through. And I just kind of hold my ground and do my thing, and I didn't want to do any tarot readings because I didn't want to subject myself to any sort of spiritual attacks. I don't know who's watching my readings. It could be dark entities, could not be, you never know. I am not the type of person who messes around with the questionable. If something is questionable, I don't underestimate, I guess the motivations of others, whether they be positive or negative or whatever it is. I don't underestimate what motivates someone and the things that they would do to get what they would like. But anyway, with all that being said, really happy to get back into the collective today. It is approximately 11 p.m. Not quite witching hour, as I usually say, but close enough. It's been too long. It's been way too long. Really want to get something out there. Again, I changed my setting a little bit. I did do a little bit of a revamp on in my apartment, so things look a little different. And this is purely by candlelight, so really love that for me. And then I have some incense burning as well. I love, it's really nice to be able to read by candlelight. Oh, we have a card out. Ooh, Temperance. Yeah, so this is kind of the vibe, like holding your ground. Temperance is also, it's water energy. I think it's Pisces. It might even be Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. But just kind of just holding your ground and observing the process of what's going on. And also there's a degree of diplomacy to this card as well, being able to be objective enough where you can be diplomatic. And it's much easier said than done, being diplomatic in that kind of sense. Like, you could be dealing with in the most objective sense, like say you're an ambassador of a contentious political war this time, and you're dealing with another country that's involved in the contention. And with all that being said, you have to really look at things objectively from what other people's motivations are, and not only that, but be able to keep the peace amongst it. Some people are really talented diplomats and ambassadors, and that could be important to you. Foreign relations. You could just like gardening or keeping things simple. It's nice to see this major arcana come up. Let's see what else we got. 4 of Pentacles. Yeah, so this card is all about in the original Rider-Waite deck, it's all about holding your ground again. Like, that's a theme here, but also in the sense where you're overlooking certain things because you're stuck in your own ways. You see in this particular depiction of it, she's sort of, aloof to this gentleman unbuttoning her corset. There's something else that's preoccupying her mind, even as this gentleman approaches her and does something like that. So there could be other things on your mind. Maybe you're not even present and you're kind of just waiting for time to pass. Maybe you're distracted by something. The Magician, yeah, but manifesting nonetheless. This is a card of manifestation. This is a card of alchemy. This is like, the ultimate, like I take fire and turn it into water, that kind of vibe. And, this is also a really powerful depiction of the Magician. He definitely has a kind of sexuality here. And with that, the masculine and their sexuality is very magical in the sense where, a lot of the females get the sense, they get a lot of credit for, creating babies inside their womb and what have you, but at the same time, like alchemizing and alchemizing inside a woman is also, very powerful in itself as well. You can see he's also sharpening his sword here. That could be relevant. Maybe you like swords or have a sword collection, or like knives, or like those types of masculine. Maybe you like martial arts or fighting with swords, whatever it might be. Here with this combination, it's definitely the vibe of like observing the process and holding your ground, but alchemizing at the same time, like being in a high enough vibration where you're able to also create from it. Like you're not just stuck in some sort of narrative of victimization. You're like, okay, what do I do here? How do I transcend this? How do I make it better? How do I change the outcome? So there is that kind of vibe. Oh, here we go. Oh, I have a lot that just came out. So this is the Six of Cups. This is a very romantic card, the Six of Cups. It's a very nostalgic, childhood days. So maybe they also here with the Magician and Four of Pentacles, and also Temperance. Like maybe someone's thinking about something that's happened in the past that maybe they didn't even realize like how good it was. Like, the thing is, like when we're so young and we have these romantic experiences, we don't really understand like the degree of how special they are. And like when we get involved with someone when we're in our teenage years, like it's very special when you have that connection from childhood and then it carries on into adulthood. And some of those relationships are lost. Some people get married as well. Some people also get divorced. But that's my stand. How could I forget? My stand. And I love this particular stand as well. It actually has the flower of life on it. So, this is a very universal sort of symbol, the flower of life. And I learned about it about 10 years ago, and I just thought it was so cool. And then it also can, this symbology and this sort of like print can be input or overlaid on maps of the stars, and it can kind of, it fits into the naturalistic pattern of the world, and I think it's just so cool. I have to change my whole setup now. Shucks. Mapping out the stars could be relevant. Like the Magician does have that capacity to map out the stars and alchemize what is there to something more. Like mapping is very much a magician. Topography is very much a magician sort of energy, where you're able to not just look up at the stars and wonder what else is out there, but also make sense of the stars and create from what we see. So again, I love this deck. This is the deck of sensual magic. So it's nice to see this vibe, because there's been like, there's been like, like spiritual warfare all around me, and like a bow and arrow like whizzing past my head, and then a rocket launcher whizzing past my other head, and then like grenades going off everywhere. Like it's all around me at this point in time, and the dust has finally kind of settled. Six of Pentacles. Yeah, so this is all a charitable card. This is about giving back to your community. And you see how this girl, this young woman is also kind of just sitting, chilling, and this gentleman is coming in, kind of approaching her, encroaching on her. Someone could certainly be circling a situation, encroaching, hunting a situation, hunting a lovely lady muse perhaps, and ready to be charitable with that as well. Like what's not to be charitable here? Especially with these apples, and this might be relevant as well. Like one bad apple ruins a whole bunch. Like it's really amazing how one person can bring out the worst in everyone. Like one person, one troublemaker, one troublemaker can bring out the worst in everyone, and really just kind of, ruin everyone's time. But, with that, that could be relevant, could not be relevant, but charitable is the relevance for this particular card, wanting to give back to your community, wanting to maybe give back to a lovely lady muse, like circling around the situation and then realizing what you can give. It could also be this lovely lady muse wanting to give back. You see how she's eating those apples, so maybe this gentleman's impoverished and he doesn't have an apple a day, keeps the doctor away, so he needs an apple himself. Like maybe he has high cholesterol or whatever it might be. So there's this tarot reader that I really adore who deleted her entire page from existence, and it's really disappointing to me because I adored her. She was an Aussie in Australia, and I just found she was so educated and so well spoken and so interesting and so intuitive and introspective, and I loved watching her readings, and her channel was called Emerson 36911, and it's no longer, and it's very disappointing to me. And she's probably one of the reasons why I even got interested in tarot. She was very inspirational to me, and like me, she was also posting on a weekly basis rather than a daily basis. But I miss listening to her, and the way that she reads and the way that I read are very similar. And I'm disappointed that she's no longer, and I hope that she's okay. I was worried about her when she stopped. Not only did she just stop posting, she deleted her whole tarot page. So I hope she didn't just give up in some kind of way. It makes me very disappointed to hear that maybe she just felt it was futile, and like, who is she really reading tarot for? She's reading tarot for me. Like I needed her. Anyway. See, I have too much fun. It's another one of my problems. All right, let's see. So what's clarifying Temperance? The Knight of Wands. So we do have a message here for someone, and this lovely Knight of Wands, he could be, a little rough around the edges, a little punk-like for sure. But wands are typically messages, their communication, their action, the physical aspect of what each suit represents. It's putting things into the physical, very much like the Magician is putting things into the physical, alchemizing the physical. So that could be relevant. Maybe someone wants to send you a message. Maybe you want to send someone a message. Maybe you've been waiting for a message. It could be any of those possibilities here as of now. You could be blonde with blue eyes. 10 of Wands. So here we are. So Ten of Wands clarifying the Four of Pentacles. So there's something in the back of your mind. That Ten of Wands reminds me of Sisyphus, the Greek. I think he was a Greek, he wasn't a god or a demigod, but I think he was actually a king. And because of greed and whatever it might be, the gods fated him to push a giant boulder up like Mount Olympus or whatever it is for eternity, and like that's what his fate was. And we're all like that in a way. Like this, my grandmother told me the story of Sisyphus, like, you know, decades ago, and it's never really left me. And how we're all like Sisyphus in the back of our minds. Like everyone has those types of issues, and pushing our own boulders up our mountain and dealing with those kinds of things. And so with the Four of Pentacles, like, you know, that's ultimately what the distraction probably is, like, you know, pushing your own freaking boulder up the mountain. And it's unfortunate too, because when we deal with people on like a day-to-day basis, there's so much projection that goes on with interpersonal relations and just how we communicate, that, you know, we really don't know why someone does something until we ask them. And even if we ask them, there's so much like, you know, like maybe that person doesn't even realize why they're doing what they're doing, or maybe, you know, they won't even say what they're doing, like, you know, they kind of beat around the bush, or they're not straight about it. So, you know, it's using your EQ to the best of your ability to kind of interpret what's going on the underlayer of, you know, someone's emotional world. And not everyone can even comprehend something like the Ten of Wands and what they might be going through. You know, we're surprised all the time, and someone might be so distracted here, may be so caught up in their own kind of stuff because they have something like this going in the background, and meanwhile they're oblivious to it. And then, like, whose responsibility is it to even inquire about it? Like, is it your responsibility as someone who's distracted to kind of, you know, talk about it and communicate like what's going on, or is it the person who is observing their, you know, whomever being distracted, asking about it, inquiring about it, like why aren't you paying attention to me, why aren't you looking at me in the eye, like why aren't you talking to me, like whose responsibility is to really uncover like what's going on underneath the surface. So that might be relevant here too with the Magician, and alchemizing this all out in the physical. You know, that's a physical message, and it's really hard for people to communicate their emotions like that. You know, I'm lucky enough where I've had this kind of shit happen to me when I was really young, and because of it I've been in therapy, you know, for 10, 12, 13 years of my life, you know, since I've been a young girl. And granted, it's been on and off, but I've certainly seen, you know, plenty of therapists for extended periods of time, and I've gotten to a point where the way that I communicate is very, like, you know, it can be very, like, I'm using it as an example because it takes time to develop that skill and to develop that EQ and to develop talking about your feelings and talking about your awareness and, you know, deciphering your awareness and like why you might be doing something and deciphering your actions. Like it takes a lot of skill and introspection to sort of get to that level. And so, you know, like if someone's not necessarily ready to receive that, like even if you're like, hey, like this has happened to me, and then they're like, oh my God, and they've like, you know, had like very, you know, have never couldn't even comprehend going through something like that. It's really difficult. So. Ace of Swords, but it's the truth too, you know. So like, how do you communicate your truth? How do you alchemize your truth? How do you create from your truth? You know, so like here with the Magician and the Ace of Swords, like this is the decisive, cutthroat, true as true could be, like straight as an arrow sort of vibe. And someone here wants to communicate their straight as an arrow, you know, truth, and they're alchemizing it along the way. And there's certainly a message here, certainly a message of love, certainly a message of, generosity, certainly a message of, being observing the process as it unfolds. And like when you deal with stuff like this, it gets really difficult. Even me in like my first world life, where I've had even with my deepest struggles, I've still had a very nice life. And it's not like I had some sort of uncle like molesting me or something like that. Like, some people have stories like awful, horrible existences. And like I've said in my past readings, like the Bangladeshi or Indian children who have to have their fingers cut off, and then they're stuck begging and then giving to the same people who have mutilated them. They're just horrible existences that people, or even just a reinforcement of those sorts of cultural practices within the culture, like genital mutilation in areas of Africa for women, where they cut off their clitoral hood because after, like, your purpose is to have babies, and you shouldn't even have pleasure from having sex, like, and then the culture reinforces it, and the women in the culture reinforce it even more, because they're just like, I went fucking through this, you're gonna go through it too. Like the Maasai, I think, do that in Tanzania. I'm just using that as an example that people go through these awful sort of circumstances. And like you take a Maasai woman out of Tanzania and you bring her into the United States, and she went through genital mutilation, and she sort of probably, like, it's very it'd be very hard for her to even adjust to this type of culture, or even think about this type of culture in out of her awareness. So I'm using that as an example because people have these things that happen to them that they can't even really talk about or even verbalize in a way where it's understood, because maybe their culture reinforces it, or maybe they're just like their awareness reinforces it, so they don't really think that they're doing anything wrong, or that they've been through anything that's wrong, and meanwhile it's like very fucked up. But the truth is coming out here for sure. Eight of Coins. Yeah, the Eight of Coins is all about, like, it's like the last leg of the race. It's like getting to a point where you are almost done but not quite. It's like putting your head down and working even harder because you want those 2 extra pentacles, 2 extra coins to get to 10 of Pentacles, where you actually have everything that you could ever want. Here with the 6 of Cups, like someone's kind of on the finish line of coming to whatever it is that they want in their life. Maybe in this particular instance with the 6 of Cups, it's like a nostalgic, soulmate, kind of vibe. And then the Knife of Swords. Yeah, so this is like a scout. This is like social media stalking too. It's like someone who's been staking you out, and you see that eye there. That someone who's definitely like aware of the fact that they're staking you out, and they're like hunting you more or less, and scouting you, and just getting an idea of what your routine is, perhaps, or getting an idea of how you spend your time, or hopefully not invading your privacy. I certainly don't like that. I don't like people invading my privacy one bit. And as a feminine, like where I come from is like so many people are so distrustful, and you have your right to be distrustful, whatever it is, but do you respect me enough to respect my privacy? And most people do not. As a feminine, like they feel entitled to know what you're doing in your free time. They feel entitled to know, like there's very little trust, and like not even like it's one thing if you're just curious, but it's another thing if you're actively trying to find out what someone's doing in a in some sort of way of, you know, it really just skeeves me though. Like that's the thing is like I've had love interests, like I've had love it. Maybe I'm also sort of avoidant. Speaking of like going to therapy, like I'm they're not common, but like I am an avoidantly attached female. I don't. I'm not, you know, interested in someone who's overbearing or someone who's over, you know, it freaks me out. Because I'm naturally independent, like not in the sense where like the culture reinforces it, like I'm a strong independent woman. Like I've always been like that. Like my mom has this story that she used to tell like all my relatives and boyfriends and just, you know, embarrass me, where I'm one of 4, so I have 3 other siblings, and we used to go to the beach and you know, dig holes in the sand, and my brother and sister were bossing me around, like, you know, trying to get me, like they were in the hole and I wanted to be in the hole digging the sand, but they're like, no, you're just moving the hole, you're just gonna be responsible for like, you know, moving around the sand and just like pushing the sand back and like making sure that the piles of sand outside the hole are like don't fall into the hole. And it made me so mad. I think I was like 3 or 4. And like, you know what? I'm gonna go dig my own freaking hole. And like I did this like when I was 3 or 4, and like my mom was shocked. Like she couldn't believe that like I had the wherewithal to even like, you know, detach myself from my 2 older siblings and do what I want anyway. And so I'm just using that as an example because maybe someone here, there's been some sort of invasion of privacy, especially with the Queen of Swords here at the end of the deck, and like that's me spiritually and, you know, figuratively and metaphorically putting down a spiritual boundary for all my watchers, for all my viewers, and for myself, that if you really respect me, if you really love me, if you really feel generous enough with me, or if anyone feels that way about you, respect my privacy. But, you know, some masculines can't help themselves. That's another thing. And some feminines too, you know, they're immensely, you know, possessive feminines, but that sort of trait is a red flag to me. And, you know, looking into what someone's doing without directly inquiring, it's an avoidance of the truth. It's an avoidance how you really feel. It's a manifestation of the 10 of Wands. It's not being honest enough with yourself to even like be open. You know, like you have to go in these roundabout ways to check someone out rather than just overtly alchemize that. Like you have to communicate these things to people, otherwise they'll never know. Like, you know, what are we supposed to do, read in between the lines with everything? Like, even if someone's not straightforward, there's so, like, if you leave things up to interpretation, they will be falsely interpreted, excuse me. If you leave things up to interpretation, they will be falsely interpreted. You know, and so unless if you want to be in that sort of guess game kind of energy, if you want to, you know, keep people on their toes, then by all means. Personally, I don't want to, and personally, I don't want to invite people in my life who enjoy sort of having me on emotional tormenting. You know, it's like okay. Like, okay, whatever. Six of Pentacles again. Yeah, so generosity. Like, 6 of Pentacles here, this kind of looks like Jesus. You know, it's a very generous card. It's like giving back, finally, like having enough where you're able to give back. So maybe someone, they've been waiting and they're able to actually give back at this point in time. They're ready to communicate. They're ready to, give to the situation. Five of Cups, disappointedly so, perhaps. Ten of Wands, and Four of Pentacles, and Five of Cups. Someone might also be disappointed that someone's so distracted. Like maybe it's also like caused them to move on. Like they're just emotionally unavailable, and they're like, wow, there's nothing for me here. Like I'm just gonna move on. Like it could be that as well. Let's see. Four of Wands, but probably not. This is again a soulmate card, Twin Flame, Ace of Swords, the Magician. So like definitely alchemizing like your soulmate, your one true love, as they say. Although I don't necessarily believe in your one true love. I think you're compatible with the more than one person. Page of Wands again, communication for sure coming up. Communication. So we have no queens on the board, we have no kings on the board, but we do have very strong feminine major arcana, Temperance, and very strong masculine major arcana, the Magician. So interesting that this is someone's like getting the wherewithal to send a message. This could be text messaging too. It could be letters with the Page of Wands twice. Maybe they're realizing finally like why someone's so distracted. And maybe like it could be anything. Like you really don't know what people go through. And like there's so much judgment in like people are so judgmental. Like it's shocking. Like I'm shocked most of the time by how judgmental some people are. And when you realize what people go through, and when you realize like life's not a fairy tale, even if it looks like one, and it's incredibly sad too. Like, oh, I didn't know that you went through genital mutilation, or you were molested, or you were assaulted, or you were lied to, or you were cheated on, or you were betrayed. Like, I didn't know you went through that. I was too busy looking at your tits. I was too busy thinking about what I could get from it. And it sort of just blows things open. And I think it's a hard lesson also for some masculines to learn. Like, I was too busy scouting you out to even realize that you had this kind of trauma in your back pocket that you were dealing with. And now I feel so guilty because I was just thinking about myself and what I wanted. And this is why the Six of Pentacles has come up twice, because maybe someone's finally having that realization. But their spiritual language is so common nowadays, like, and everyone claims to be spiritual. And for me personally, like, I can tell someone if someone's truly spiritual with just the regard of how they talk about women, how they think about women, how do they respect women. Women are the other in society. Like, I don't want to bring in feminist rhetoric, but like, men are the standard and women are, a different type of, like, we're not, we don't really fit into what the standards are, or if that even makes sense. I don't want to push anything down anyone's throat by all means, but I'm just saying that it takes a mature masculine, which is why there's only, knives pages on the board, to even realize that, like, we're just, like, some women are just as human, if not more, and have as many thoughts, feelings, as men, if not more. And it takes empathy to even realize that. But for me personally, like, I can tell if someone's, quote, really spiritual, men, women, how they regard other people, how they talk about other people, if they respect other people, even if they don't know them, even if they disagree with them, even if they think that they're like the biggest asshole in the fucking world. How do they talk about other people? Are they respectful of other life forms different than them, different religions than them, different political views of them, different ways of upbringing than them? And the Three of Cups. There's celebration though. Like, I know I'm kind of getting into my spiritual rhetoric here, but this is this is a very nice reading with the Three of Cups. It's like someone's like, yay, like I finally realized what it is. Like I can communicate what I mean. Like I've waited so long. I can make something out of it. I can create from it. Like I get it. Like it's like someone, like it's just clicks. You know, you go through time, that's why there was so much residual energy. We're in a very interesting pivotal point. You know, summer's coming too. Like it clicks one day, and that's the vibe. And like someone's ready to celebrate for it. Someone's ready to give back for it. Someone's done kind of scouting out the situation. Let me get more. Where's my? Oh, there she is. Oh, my spiritual. My sensual magic deck. Where am I? 36 minutes. All right, let's see what else I got you. All right, so who is this reading for? Who is this reading for? Who is this reading for? Ace of Cups. So for someone who is ready for love, there's been some conflict for sure. Some betrayal, perhaps. Some, what's the word? Peeping Toms, perhaps. Here in this particular card, you can see that there's someone watching. And someone watching the fornication. I mean, it's one thing to watch, it's another thing to freaking take a picture or a video or whatever. Like, that's so creepy. So creepy. So there's certainly been conflict. Yeah, but victory. Who's victorious? Yeah, it's all sort of balancing out. Justice here on the table. Justice for who? Justice for Queen of Swords. Queen of Pentacles. Oh wow. Justice for the feminine. Yeah. Wow. And so, like, back to residual energy, like, again, like, this shit that I'm doing right now, reading tarot, like, if I was doing this 100 or even 200 years ago, I would have been freaking killed, you know? Like, the town would have lit my house on fire and then come after my entire family because I'm practicing witchcraft. And, like, that's just not me. That happened to tens of thousands of women and spiritual women, and it really kind of, it disadvantaged our entire society by doing, you know, the witch trials and, you know, all the ways that we have persecuted women for, you know, being intuitive. Not out of, like, you know, are we afraid of it? It's so, anyway, I don't want to get too into my whole spiel. But love, light, and blessings to all of you. We're at that pivotal point, and, you know, we're kind of like, it just clicked for someone out there. It just started to make sense, and there's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to celebrate. Love, light, and blessings, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your night.